As I said, if you did you like the transition? That was last night's talk. Yeah. Okay. So exploring BI technology. I'm Tom. I'm an assistive technology advisor at Leeds University. I like to say because it makes me seem more important than I actually am. But I'm based at Disability Services. All my details are on the first slide, so I'll send the slides out to you. If there's anything that you are unsure of, if you want to try anything that we have a look at today, or if you want to ask any questions about any of the facets of the area, or anything else to do with assistive technology, my details are there. Email, no question is too difficult, no question is stupid, apart from the stupid ones, but we won't go into that. I think sometimes when it comes to assistive technology, I get a little bit not upset, but I get a little bit kind of frustrated because there are tools out there that are very useful. And sometimes it's not a case of people being hesitant to use them, it's not actually them being aware of what's out there. So this is one of the other things that I'm hoping to try and cover today. All right, okay, so first thing we're going to look at is we're going to look at screen readers. This is purely because I had a couple of the note-taking staff coming to me and saying, we're struggling with screen readers, we're struggling with how students use them, we're struggling with transcribing and converting documents and such so that they are able to be read by screen readers. So here's just a general piece of information about screen readers. I'm going to read everything on the slide as well. I know that's not great practice, but just in case anybody has a visual impairment themselves. An assistive technology that conveys what fully sighted people can see on a computer display. That's what screen readers do. It's not just reading a text. It's not just about putting a Word document or a PDF or something up on the screen and having it read to you. As it says on the last point there, as it doesn't say, but it's about being able to orientate yourself in the world, and in particularly the world of the web, as somebody with visual impairment. It's not simply just screen reading text. What a screen reader does, it identifies certain things like labels, buttons, images, and allows the user to orientate themselves on that online space or that screen space. So it's not just about having something read to you. The three ones I put up on the screen, those are the icons for three of the most popular screen readers around the world. One of the most popular screen reader we have at Leeds University at the moment is JAWS. But JAWS comes with a price point. NVDA is an alternative to JAWS that I believe will become more popular in the next couple of years because it's free to use. It has the functionality of JAWS. There are slight differences, but if I was going to lay a bet as to which would be the most popular screen reader for students with visual impairment in 5 years' time, I think it's going to be NVDA. But a lot of people use JAWS at the moment. What you'll find is that you won't have to do any training or train students using a screen reader. Students who come to us usually have their own way of working, usually have their own preferred program, and usually have their own preferred style. So it's not about training somebody how to use this technology. I think it's about, well, how does somebody with visual impairment use the technology? What do they do? What are the kind of intricacies of the way that they work? I'm not visually impaired myself, so what I thought I'd do is I would refer to somebody who knows a little bit about it more than I do. So, quick video. Now, in this case, we have an academic who is visually impaired, but in this case, he's talking about accessibility when it comes to screen readers and accessibility in relation to web pages, which is one of the main issues that we're finding at the moment that students are finding extremely difficult. Students with BI find it extremely difficult to access particular web pages because they have not been built with accessibility in mind. It does take some time and effort to do that as programmers. But I'll let Iman speak because he knows a little bit more about it. He's got more of an inside view than I have.
My name is Cheryl Bergstaller, and I direct Accessible Technology Services at the University of Washington in Seattle.
I'm going to turn it up a bit, by the way.
Services also reach out to our branch campuses in Bothell and Tacoma.
My name is Hadi Rangi, and I'm a member of IT accessibility team at University of Washington.
Words appear.
Using a screen reader. Hadi's an accessibility expert, and he's also a user of accessible technology. He uses a refreshable Braille display and screen reading software that reads everything on the screen.
I am blind and I use a screen reader program at home and here and everywhere. Screen reader program is a software that communicates with the operating system and conveys the information to me.
Welcome. Blank. Accessible pages. Design. Features of this design of this.
You know, even you are reading as a sighted person, you do not read every content at the same speed, right? Sometimes you have to make a pause and then review what you have read and then digest the information. For us, it's the same thing. When we are reading, for example, a normal conversation, we can read it very fast. And then, but when we are reading technical content, then we go a little slower, make more pauses.
Accessible University 1.
I have slowed down my screen.
This is an intricacy when it comes to screen reading that I, as a sighted person, had not realised. I've been working with people with visual impairment for 20 years. I started as a teaching assistant in a college. And the first time I had somebody who used a screen reader regularly, they were doing a psychology course, and they were sat in front of a computer. And you have to remember, 20 years ago is an awfully long time when it comes to technology. But it's the first time I read it, and this person was familiar with the technology already, and he was reading certain things as I would be speaking, and then I was, what? What? How did you do? I thought he was a superhero. I thought it's incredible. But as those of us who are used to reading using print, we read at different speeds, we read at different we skim read things that we know that aren't important. And that's exactly the same sort of process that goes on with a screen reader. A user can adapt their usage to be comfortable with different sections, with different areas. If we think about a web site, if we think about a website, there's not just text on there. There's buttons, there's address bars, there's all sorts of different links. And the screen reader will identify those things, but for somebody who's using the screen reader, they might want to get to the most important information first, so they might know to just kind of go very quickly through this, and then stop when they need to. Let me just crack on, sorry, I'm taking...
Reader program.
Banner. Setting level 1 graphic accessible university. Banner end.
But if it is, for example, about email, I can go...
Faster. Make menu navigation region. Show menu keyboard shortcuts button. Blank. Above menu sub menu collapse.
I can go that fast.
Mid collapse academics.
But it's not enough for Hadi to have a screen reader. Websites must be designed accessibly in order for the screen reader to provide a full experience of the web page.
I would like to show you the 2 pages that are visually pretty much consistent, identical, but one of them is accessible, one of them is not accessible. You will see in an inaccessible page how difficult it is when those accessibility features are
Capture,
not present.
visualize,
Words appear.
and
An
manage
accessible
your ideas
website.
and information with MindGenius,
This
the
is the-
leading business mind mapping software.
That is the accessible
Use
version
MindGenius
of
to brainstorm new ideas,
fictional
plan
university
strategies and
that we have
projects,
developed here. We call
rapidly
that
gather
accessible
project
university.
requirements and risks,
Here, for example,
and
an
capture the
accessible-
Hi everyone, welcome along today.
As
My name's James Brown, I'm part of
Capture
the business
process.
development team here at MindGenius.
any project or
Today's
task.
webinar is going to be a brief
Okay.
introduction to the MindGenius software. So I'm going to show you how you can use the tool to gather.
helping you
And
to
the main
prioritize
body.
and take action.
And then
The
there
map
is another
layout
region,
allows you to visualize the
and
scope of your
content
projects,
information,
gain
which
unique
is the same
insights,
as
and
footer
make sure the
section.
scope is comprehensive
So,
and agreed.
assuming the
Then
page has been
automatically
developed
switch your
correctly,
map into
I
the
have
integrated Gantt view
good idea
or
of the
export
major
to MS
component of
Project.
the page.
Words appear. An inaccessible website.
MindGenius is
Let
used
me
by
now
a number
go
of companies
to see
across a
this
diverse
page,
range of
the inaccessible version of this page.
Home page Mozilla Firefox. Accessible university demo site and accessible version. Accessible university.
This is
Improve your
this looks
productivity
pretty
by
much
capturing,
same as the other
visualizing,
thing,
and
the
using
accessible
your
version.
information more
But
effectively
here,
with
when
MindGenius.
I ask my screen reader to convey the major component,
No regions were found on
it said the no region found. So for me, practically,
Accessible university.
is that I have to read from top to bottom.
Accessible University alt tag. Untitled no alt tag.
And if those accessibility features are not present, everything has the same weight.
And that's one of
So
the
we
issues.
do not.
Sorry,
There is no way for us.
even university forward-facing, front-facing websites, online resources have not been thought of or have not been designed with accessibility in mind. It's one of the issues, and it's one of the issues that you may face with your own students who have VI when they're trying to access things like research or when they're trying to access things like their handbook or guidebook. Now, we're not responsible for the design of websites, thank goodness, because otherwise this would be a terribly long and boring lecture. But what we are responsible for, especially those of you that are note takers, is that you're responsible for possibly trying to transcribe work, transcribe sessions or lectures after you've taken your notes. Online resources, those of you at PA are helping students to find online resources. You may need to think about how a screen reader would work when you are passing on online resources to your student. Any research that the student might need, you have to think about, well, how is that person going to access that particular research? Is it in a book, a paper book? Okay, it's in a paper book, so how is a screen reader going to use a paper book? But we'll get to that a little bit later on. Yes?
Sorry, I'm one of the people who asked for this because
Yeah.
I can't see from the image you're showing us, and maybe you can enlarge it, what exactly is the technology? Because it's not a normal...
You'd like that, yeah, you'd actually like
I just
pictures.
need, in my head,
Yeah.
need to have a sense of what it
Hadid
is
was using
they're
something called a
using.
Braille machine. A Braille machine is a refreshing a machine that you plug into the computer and translates words and or speech into Braille. It's one line of Braille, and the Braille dots come up automatically given what it's
So it's
reading.
an adjunct to the...
It's an adjunct to
But
the
the student
computer.
I was working with wasn't using that, he was just using the laptop.
Just using a laptop. Okay.
And I was amazed at what he could and
Couldn't
couldn't
do. We'll have a chat, because if we can see the kind of way of working of that student through his records and things, we can have a look at specifically what they're doing. Because of course every single student is not the same. Not all students with VI will use screen readers. Not all students with VI know how to use Braille, and etc. etc. It's all about individual personalisation to ways of working. So when it comes to screen readers, these are some of the kind of crossover points that you might find when it comes to helping your students. Transcription of in-session notes, trying to figure out what's best when it comes to, when you take your notes, I'm assuming you handwrite your notes and then transcribe them at a later date, yeah? Okay, so when a student with VI using a screen reader, there are a couple of fairly simple, straightforward, real quick wins for them. And what I've done is I've got everybody a little bit more of an in-depth document about how to make Word documents in particular and Mac OS literature documents accessible for screen readers. Now, I didn't want to do this in the session because, to be honest, this would probably take the whole session. But this is one of the best things that I've found. The reason is, as much as I love technology, this is a very straightforward set of instructions. Start to finish, looking at the two main issues. It's not my own, I'm not going to take credit for it as much as I would like to. It's from a place named Swarthmore, not Swarthmore down the road from here, but Swarthmore in Massachusetts, I believe. Yeah. So it's really useful because where you are is you're kind of at the kind of crux point between the student and the technology that they may use. So if you are thinking about transcription, here are kind of the four big ones that you might read. And this is kind of essential for anybody who is doing any kind of adaptation when it comes to work with students who use screen readers. So the big ones are, now I do this myself, and this is something I haven't realised until fairly recently, a couple of years ago. When I'm doing titles and underlining and all those types of things, to make sure that it's a title, I make it bigger. I make the word bigger, oh, that's your title. Now, a screen reader does not recognise the size of print. Everything is, for a screen reader, everything is the size of print. So if you simply make it bigger to indicate that to the screen reader that that's a title, the screen reader won't recognise that. So what you need to do, or what you should be doing, or hopefully what you can do, if you aren't comfortable about doing this kind of thing, come and see me, because I've got a lovely little one-to-one training session on it as well, is that in Word in particular, because I'm using Word as an example, it's what the program that most of our students use, there's something called the Style tool. Right? The Style tool breaks down a document into different headers. For instance, title, subheading, 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 that can be read by screen readers. If you press on that button and then you go ahead and create your document, that will be much easier to read than a document with things like emboldened, underlining, italics, or strike-throughs that a screen reader cannot read. Okay? Think about it like this. Anything that is made visual on the screen when it comes to text is not read by the screen reader. It is just the text. Yeah?
I had a blind student who asked me to put headings in bold, so I guess some...
Yeah, of course. Headings in bold, that, I'm assuming that student may have been partially sighted. Yeah. Once again, with all this...
That's for a screen reader.
Yeah, that was... But of course, if somebody's also using a screen reader, it's not necessarily that that is their only input of information. It might be a combination of using the screen reader and the screen itself. But for those that have a serious visual impairment, having audio cues for what's going on the screen is fairly intrinsically needed. So the best and easiest way of doing it is using something called the Style tool. And if you're unsure as to what it is, I'll make a video, send it out, give you instructions, or give you the instructions themselves. But it's really, really easy. Trust me. For those of you that are using mathematics or tables or graphs within your documents, if you create descriptions for those tables and graphs and alternative text for images, a screen reader will not be able to recognize a picture of something. It will not provide automatically a description. There are things that do, we'll get that into that in a second. But if you're word processing your document, if you add a description to any image, or there are certain other buttons for things like descriptions for tables and graphs, and I'll send that stuff out for the information. Just have a think. Now, this might be teaching your grandmother to suck eggs, because to be honest, out of the both of us, you guys are the experts at this kind of thing, because you have spent much more time working one-to-one with these students. But these are just handy hints and tips that maybe make your life a little bit easier as time goes on.
Ask a quick question.
Of course you can.
Does it recognise symbols as well?
Now, this is the other thing. I thought this question would come up. There is, and I thought that I was going to have a bet with myself about which questions come up. Thank you very much. You win. For those of you that work in the mathematics department, chemistry department, etc., symbols, formulae, no native screen readers can recognise that. However, there are particular add-ons that can be used in conjunction with things like Word that will allow it to describe certain mathematical formulae, certain chemical equations, and so on and so forth. However, I've not tested the viability of those as of yet. So when I do, and because I knew that was going to come up, I put the name down the thing. It's something called Math Player. Yeah? Math Player is a program that used in conjunction with Word that should allow identification of formula. But I'm not 100% on that, so I didn't want to say just go and use this, because I've not really tested it as much. But for those of you that chemistry, mathematics, engineering, it may be something of use. I'll have a look at it within the week and see if it's a viable, see if it has viable usage. Hyperlinks. If you have a link to a document, just relabel it and explain what it is, what the label is. So instead of HTTP, which is how it sounds when somebody's reading it on a screen reader, relabel it, link to BBC website 1. Just just transferring what is a very long visual, and if it read as is, very long speech into a very short, easy, and orientated link. Okay, so I've got lots more. That document, have a read in your own time. It's probably one of the most useful things that I've come across for people who take notes or transcribe for people with visual impairment when it comes to Word documents. Yeah.
I've recently been working with a student who's just starting, and he insists on doing everything on his phone.
Yeah.
And that is causing quite a lot of problems at the moment.
Okay.
So is the only answer for him really, he has got a laptop, he just prefers not to, and is less familiar with his laptop than he is with
Now,
his
this is the thing. When it comes to familiarity, a student using their own device and a student comfortable with a way of working is great. And if that way of working is efficient. Now, it's not always the case that comfort equals efficiency, but if a student is coming across with one of the ways that they're used to working when it comes to technology, give them my email address, and I'll have a and I'll have a discussion with him about how he works, what he's comfortable with, and maybe everything that we have here. There are mobile alternatives as well. I'm going to dash through because I've promised. Orientation and mobility is a very big issue. It came up a lot in the VI training that I've just had, strangely enough. It's assistive technology that helps people with visual impairment navigate their environment. Okay, now, everybody thinks, oh, I'm the technology guy. It's got to be the biggest technology, the newest thing, cutting edge. Not necessarily. What do you think is the most popular, in a survey of 10 visually impaired students here at university, what was the most popular orientation device? Nope. It was cane. Yeah, cane. So when you think about technology, when you think about, and there was one other that was quite technological. Uber, that's a deaf-blind cane, by the way. That's not a... The most used orientation and mobile technology for students, so the student sample was 19 to 24, there was a student sample of 20. Uber was the top mobility technology that they had.
Because mum and dad pay the bill.
Yeah, that's also great. Uber as a mobility app is very good because the app itself is accessible. It's fairly accessible. And of course, it's linked intrinsically to mobility. But there are others. I'm not too sure if you've seen this. This is an app from Microsoft called Seeing AI that's only available on iPhones, Apple iPhones at the moment. It's an orientation tool, an app free to download from the Apple Store. Just have a look at some of the things. Like I said, I'm not visually impaired, but this is a person who is, so he's kind of got the inside knowledge.
This is a demo of the Seeing AI app. It's made by Microsoft and it's completely free. You can use it on an iPhone. Let's take...
Excuse me, sorry.
This is a demo of the Seeing AI app. It's made by Microsoft and it's completely free. You can use it on an iPhone. Let's take a look at some of the features of the app now. This is the short document reader. This is really handy for being able to quickly identify a document.
Short text. DQ at packing list. Ship to Statewide Vision Resource Centre, Glen Morris 380 Springvale Road.
If we think about a student's life around university, how much of that information is conveyed visually? Through things like poster boards, things like handbooks, things like, well, a wealth of written information. What an app like this, and many other apps as well, because this is not the only app that does this, what this does is it turns something that's incredibly visual into something that is audible. Also, it's free, so everybody likes free stuff. And also, it has lots of different tools in the one place. Let me show you what else it does.
John Valvic 31.
For longer documents, you can use the document reader.
Document. Hold steady. Processing.
This is a really cool feature of the app. You can use it.
It can do whole documents as well. So you could use it in replacement of a traditional scanner, as it were. However, we're going to get onto that as well. Sorry, I keep interrupting.
To identify products in your kitchen, all you have to do is point your camera at the product's barcode.
Celestial Tea Sleepy Time Classic 20 CT.
I'm not quite sure why we have sleepy time tea in our office, but let's just ignore that and move along. You can also use the app to identify people.
Person. One face near bottom edge 1 foot away. Glenn, a very ugly man near centre 2 feet away.
If the app doesn't know the name of the person, then it will tell you what their face looks like and have a guess at the age, which could be a little bit dangerous.
45-year-old man with black hair looking neutral.
The app has a built-in colour detector. Let's try and work out the colour of this jumper.
Color preview, black.
The app also has a light detector.
Light.
The level of the tone depends on the amount of light that's currently in view. The lower the tone, the less light. The higher the tone, the greater the light source. This can be really useful for helping someone who is totally blind identify whether they've left lights on or not. The Seeing AI app is available on iPhones on the iOS platform. It's not available at this stage on Android or on iPads. It's very useful for helping people who are blind or vision impaired achieve everyday tasks by using the camera on your...
So apps like this are used as a tool for orientation and mobility. When you think about an academic environment, it's not just the academic side, although it could be extremely useful for the academic side of things. A lot of students feel isolated when they come to university who have visual impairment because they're not able to integrate themselves into the more pastoral elements of university life. Now, if you have something where you can recognise a face in a crowd, that could be extremely useful at events. If you have something that tells you who's playing what on a poster or on the screen, the applications are fairly large, but it's just something that's available now and is free. You know, if you want to have a go and you have an iPhone, yeah, it's only available on iPhone. Yeah, all right. You can download that today. Students with visual impairment are already using it. But let's get rid of that. Okay, so something like that. What would the benefits be? They help foster independence, if that is in fact your preferred way of working. Of course, this could be for one student this could be a game changer, and for another student this could be a useless gimmick. It's all dependent on that person, all dependent on that person's background, whether they're comfortable with technology, whether they actually want to use it, you know, because that's always an issue. Don't have to, nobody's going to force it. I could come up with two benefits. It helps foster independence, it allows greater interaction with the wider world. Can anybody think of any others? Because, as I said, this is the first time I'm doing this presentation, so if you could do some of the work for me, that'd be great. Yeah? I mean, it's free. That's, honestly, the price of a
£1,000 iPhone is free.
Well, yeah. The cost of assistive technology is large because it is a small market. So dedicated equipment means that you have to put the price point up because there will only be a smaller number of people using it. So when I talk to blind students, vision impaired students, they are always narked off about the price of equipment. Anybody know Brittany Stead? Brittany Stead wants an eye tracker device that basically does that, but it's a pair of glasses, so you have it on your eyes all the time. I looked into that, it's £2,000. As much as we want to help our students, some of the technology is simply unavailable to us because of its price point. So I kind of concentrate on some of the stuff that is a little lower, free if possible, a few quid if not, and go from there. Let me dash through because I'm aware of the time now. So, scanning apps. This is one of the technologies that I thought perhaps might be useful for PAs and note takers who are asked or requested to do photocopying. Okay. Number one, there's not always an available photocopier. Number two, if you try to photocopy a book that is wider than that, what you end up with is you end up with half pages, you end up with that weird kind of black triangle in the middle of the screen, all that kind of thing. Mobile scanners using mobile phones kind of gets rid of some of those problems. It's basically a handheld scanner. That's basically what it does. It can convert an image to a PDF, which is useful to an extent, but as you may or may not know, many screen readers do not read PDFs natively. Screen readers often have PDF conversion tools where you have to convert the PDF into a Word document or another document, a DAISY document, or so and so forth, and then put it into your screen reader. But there are things. It saves the image either on the phone or to cloud storage. So if you take a picture of something, it's always going to be there unless there's a terrible mass destruction event and all the internet in the world goes down. And this is the one that I thought was probably the most important, and I'll tell you why in a little while. a lot of these correct the image for optimum readability. I thought, well, what exactly does that mean? And so I grabbed my £49 Android phone that I use because, just because. I figure if I'm going to use technology, it's got to be the cheapest price point that I can possibly find, so it's available to the most people that I'm working with. Yeah, exactly. I was using my sister's iPhone for 4 years because she got an upgrade. That's how I use it.
Would you recommend one of
Now this is the thing. I could say use this particular one or use this particular one, but it very much depends on what you want to do. Cam Scanner is very good when it comes to image manipulation. You can change a very faint pencil drawing into a very sharp outline, and it's the same with handwriting. However, there are certain costs, and its cloud storage isn't very good. Microsoft Office Lens is great. It does lots of things automatically, but it doesn't send to certain cloud storage things that the students in university use. Scanbot, you pay for it once and then it's done. That's great, but it's not as good as the others. Adobe Scan is the one I'm going to demonstrate in the next video. But I think what I need to do really, because there are so many, I can't be an assistive technology expert because there is too much content, too many products. But I'll send around the top 5, yeah? Or maybe even the top 3. Let's do top 3. I use Adobe Scan for this video because it does certain things automatically. Let me show you. This is my own phone, so that's my wife and my kids, so just ignore that. Okay. Let's see if it gets to work.
Okay, for this demonstration I'm going to use Adobe Scan on my Android phone, purely for the sake of keeping the video short, because many of the steps that the scanner app goes through in Adobe Scan are kind of automated, so it keeps things quick. So I'm just going to choose my app, my Adobe Scan app, which is at the top there. And then I'm going to find a document. I have one already set up here. The app looks for the document, captures it automatically, and then I'm going to do a little tiny bit of adjustments because I want to make sure that the scan is as readable as possible. Always important, and I'll talk a little bit about that, about why, a little bit later on in the video. I'll continue from there, I think, yeah, because we've got rid of some of the shadows on the left-hand side as well. And there we have our finished document. As you can see, very readable, no shadows, and that can be sent, saved to the phone, sent to a cloud storage application such as OneDrive or Google.
Shut up, somebody said all that. So yeah, it's a mobile handheld technology that does the same as going to a machine and wrestling with a book. One of the advantages is that, like I say, some of the difficulties when it comes to photocopying in particular, for a large volume, as it were, if you are helping a student find their research and such, is that when it comes to the way that the page is, it can be less readable. And that would be a problem, for instance, for students with screen readers, because a lot of, and we'll talk about, I wanted to do a separate session on OCR technology because I think it's really, really important. It could be quite useful for everybody, so I won't go into too much detail. The benefits of this one, it allows capture of text anywhere. A student could use their own device, or you might use a university-provided device, or even your own if you want to do your own research or in your own life. This stuff is not just for academic purposes, this stuff is for everybody. This is not assistive technology in the sense that assistive technology for disabled students, it's assistive technology for everybody. Makes my life a lot easier when I'm doing certain things, or if I'm in a session like this and I want to take a picture of the board, and I'm sat here, I'll take a picture, and it will correct the image for me and put it in a nice square image for me. Okay. Now the correction functions are important when it comes to students with VI and screen readers, because some screen readers use something called OCR technology, which is optical character recognition, which means that a program can recognize that there's an image with text on it, for instance, a photocopy or a picture of a book, and then transfer that text to workable text, for instance, in a Word document. So for instance, if I take a picture of this sheet, traditionally I wouldn't be able to use it with a screen reader because it's just an image, but OCR technology means that you could recognize what's on that sheet, convert it to a Word document, and you could use it with a screen reader. Now that's quite a, if you haven't done it before, it's quite a straightforward yet difficult process at the start, so I thought I might put on another session. Oh, this session, there's going to be, I'll send you a version of it as well. Okay, with me talking over my slides and stuff, just so, and with links. So, a lot of the apps are free, and it allows students to easily keep and organise notes. You know, how many students with visual impairment spend a lot of time flicking through, reading materials, because they're not 100% sure their orientation, where to start, where to finish, and so on and so forth. Right, last but not least, speech recognition. I'm not too sure what time it is. How much time have I got?
You've got to report to.
Oh, okay, sorry. Oh, that's perfect. Okay. Speech recognition. Speech recognition in general lives have become huge within the last 5 years with the advent of things like Alexa, Siri, Google Home, which allows tasks at home to be automated. For instance, turning the lights off for students who have mobility issues can now be automated. Turning thermostats on and off, radios on and off, choosing radio channels. For students with visual impairment, traditionally, radio, audio is very important to them, and now we have ways where we can tell somebody to play us something, a podcast, a piece of music. We don't have to have a visual user interface, we could do it through voice. So speech recognition does two main things. It allows a student or somebody, because I use it myself, it allows somebody to dictate a piece of writing into a computer and it will type it for you. I've been doing this for 20 years. Dragon's been going as long as I have. And when it started off, and it still is at certain points, Dragon takes a long time to train to a reader's voice, but once it does, it's incredibly accurate. But in past years, we now have technology that perhaps doesn't take as much training when it comes to a particular user's voice, and can be very accurate indeed. Let me give you an example in a moment. Also, speech recognition, issue commands on the computer, issue commands to automated tasks and things like that, allowing a user with VI to do things in a fashion that is as quick and as efficient as it would be using a visual interface. Okay, I'm going to have a go at this. This is Otter AI. This is a dictation program that I use in my daily life, and that some students have found it useful so far, although I'm not too sure where this link's going to go. So we'll have to have a look. Oh, yeah, of course it's not. Okay, let's try another one. I'm going to try and do a demo because I've been in this game so long that I remember sitting in front of computers saying the same thing over and over again. Now, I was having to think about people's work practices, especially note takers. And of course, you are the professionals, you know exactly what you're doing. But I'll be honest, I was surprised that there was a certain transcription process once you've got the information from a seminar, that you transcribe the written information, usually handwritten information, into text. Now, my typing speed is atrocious, and I've been using computers. I wasn't trained to type, I can't touch type, and it's taken me a long time. I also write professionally about education and technology, and I do that on a kind of weekly basis, about 700 words to national newspapers. Using this particular app, I could dictate a document with about 98% average accuracy off the bat, but it also really cut down on my speed. But anyway, I'm chuntering. Let me show you. As I say, everything here I'll give you links to. And you can have a go at this yourself, or not. if the case may be. Some students will find it useful, some won't. You might find it useful, you might not. You know, it's about using your professional judgment. As I say, you know more about the situations that you and I ever would, and these sessions are more like just, oh, this exists. You know, this might be useful. This might be useful, rather than saying use this, because there's no point in doing that. Let's have a look. And of course, yeah, I know, right? Everybody's also concerned about security. Good. Good, I'm glad. Do I have a phone? Yes, it's right here. Well, hopefully, there we go. Okay, so, Otter AI, quite impressive, as is things like Google voice typing, as is things like Word's own native voice typing app. These things have come on so much from when I started that there's not much that impresses me when it comes to education technology, but this stuff does. And what also impresses me is that it's readily available now. Let me give you, now I'm not sure if this is going to work because I'm not sure if we've got a microphone here, but we'll see. Okay. Hello, are we mic'd up at all? Yes, we are, that's fantastic. Okay, so Otter AI uses AI technology, artificial intelligence, to fill in the gaps that perhaps some more traditional screen readers would have. It likes my voice because my voice is quite neutral. Sometimes it struggles with accents, sometimes it struggles with environment when it can't hear particular things, but in general, in situations like writing essays or first drafts of essays at least, or if you have your handwritten notes and don't want to type them, because you already have your script, so you're not having to think, you could simply dictate it into a system like this and have it written for you. I did a 700-word essay about people like me saying that technology is the answer and how stupid they are, and it was 700 words. It would usually take me an hour to get a first draft. In this case, it took me 7 minutes. So, yeah. There are issues. Let's stop that. How we do? Does it? Hello, we'd like to. Yes, that's fantastic. Okay, so yeah, there are issues. It's not 100% accurate. Not 100% accurate. However, it take a student a lot quicker to go through and just change the inaccuracies rather than write out the whole thing. Or perhaps in your own working practices, it might be quicker to do this, change the inaccuracies, than having to type out a handwritten document. Just something to think about as well.
As someone signed into this, does this AI learn your voice?
No.
Doesn't, okay.
It doesn't learn my voice. It does not. It's not like Dragon Naturally Speaking,
Yeah.
which uses a different structure to learn the cadence and intonation of people's voices.
Because it's picked it up badly in the first section.
Yeah,
But then
I
got
think that's
more
because,
you.
to be honest, that's more to do with me not being sure if there's a microphone on. So, you know, shouting at it, as much as I love shouting at computers, doesn't really help. But yeah, it's just something. This is for me when I was a wee lad. This was the future. You know, this was the future. This was especially having students and working with students who, not just VI, working with students who are on the dyslexic spectrum, working with students that composition can be difficult for any number of reasons, or working with students with cognitive difficulties when it comes to motor movement. So yeah, something that might be helpful for students, but also something that might be helpful for yourself. I use it, and I'm awesome. So yeah. Right, so let me just see where we can get the last bit. Where were we? Scanning, speech recognition, that's also AI. So benefits, difficult tasks are made easier if writing is difficult. And for staff, it could reduce transcription time or time it takes for record keeping, etc. You know, I like free stuff that makes my life easier. That's kind of the point of that particular demonstration. So that's about it, really. It's a very, very small dip of a toe into technology and the way that it might be working.
Does Otter AI work with other languages?
Now, this is the thing, not at the moment, but
Okay.
Google Docs voice typer
Yeah,
does.
it does, yeah.
Yeah, it does. Because we had to do a little test. We have We had to do a little test on Mandarin yesterday, so I don't speak Mandarin, strangely enough. It's one of the things they didn't ask for. But I played a Mandarin movie with subtitles into Google Docs and got it to kind of
It
do
works
that.
really well with Mandarin.
It really does.
Korean and Japanese.
Yeah,
works
it really
well.
does. So there is scope. If you're unsure about any of this, or you're unsure as to the validity or the reliability of this kind of stuff, you're right. You're absolutely right. It's always good to be hesitant about this type of thing. But it does actually benefit people to try. Yeah? If you're unsure whether a student might benefit to me, if you think, oh, well, they might be good, just refer them to me. I'll have a chat with them. And if you want a little bit of advice or a session on a particular technology that you may think is useful for your students or yourself, come into the office, have a chat. I'm always about. It'd be nice to talk to people rather than scream. Yeah? As I say, I'm assuming everybody is on the university email list. Yeah? I'll send this PowerPoint along with an audio commentary, much like the one that I'm doing now, to just make sure that everybody is. If you want to pass it on to anybody who's not here today, that would also be good. If somebody says, oh, what was that training like? That strange bearded bloke, I don't like him. He's weird with the buttons and that. If you want to pass it on to somebody, yeah, please do. But apart from that, that's basically it. So the screen reading links, we've got links to the stuff that I've used today, links to other things that I've used today. But for my own information, so 3 good scanners is probably a good idea to put at the end of that. Any other requests or questions or scenarios that you'd like to talk to about? It's not great when it's a room full of people, and if you want to talk one-to-one, you're more than happy to either contact me by email or on the phone or pop into the office in there. As I say, don't worry about getting all these slides down. I'll send them for you, or if you want to, you can.